Hey, what's up guys, aarava here, and welcome back to an episode of my F1 2021 MyTeam Career Mode. Episode number 50 today for the Hungarian Grand Prix in Season 3. If you guys did miss the previous episode at the British Grand Prix, then be sure to go check that one out before you see this one. That was a chaotic race, another wet one. Thankfully, it looks like the forecast for this episode is going to be nice and dry. But yeah, at Silverstone, plenty of action, of course. We had that special one-off livery in black and gold, kind of throwing it back to the John Player special days of the Lotus, that very iconic livery in Formula 1, and you guys seem to really enjoy it, although there were a couple of people likening it to the Haas livery of Rich Energy, which is an insult to the Lotus livery. Get some culture, okay? It's the Lotus black and gold. Iconic. Okay, Rich Energy tried to imitate it, and it didn't work, okay? It didn't work. But anyway, here we are then for the Hungaro Ring, and going into this one, well, following what occurred at Silverstone, Lando Norris was able to gain a few points on us, although we did a massive job to limit the damage. You know, in the end, what was it? 2 points on the road, an extra point for the fast lap of the Grand Prix. So, in the end, instead of Lando taking the lead of the championship or closing the gap to less than 3 points, it's only 3 there because, you know, we did a massive job at limiting that damage, and we did well because at one point we were, you know, right at the back in last place, so we did very, very well. Obviously got very lucky with the 2 Aston Martins holding everyone up on the wet compound attire, but you need a bit of luck in this sport for sure. But we are now firmly in the back end, the second half of this season, and it is, well, it's getting very, very juicy because you've got Ferrari in the hands of Leclerc, who won the last episode, and even Sainz has been very, very good this season. The Ferraris are now speeding up even more so, and finally maybe things are clicking perhaps after Leclerc got his win. Now that's 1 win each for him and Sainz, so maybe they can bring some momentum, and if they are, that's going to push us down the order. And of course other people have been bringing upgrades. You know, Alpine with George Russell have looked better. Speaking of upgrades, we're going to make one on the chassis side of things. Now this is actually the last upgrade I can actually buy in terms of the aero chassis engine, apart from the manufacturer upgrades that I get from Mercedes as a power unit manufacturer, and also obviously I'm talking about performance, not reliability. So that's going to be the last upgrade I can get. So that is pretty much now a maxed out car, apart from the Mercedes upgrades that we will get eventually, I think, towards the end of this season. So that's going to be interesting to see where we end up on the R&D graph compared to the other teams, because they are already looking pretty good. And obviously last episode, you know, obviously the full wet conditions didn't help. I think our car struggled in the full wet, so it was much better in the intermediates, but the other teams look really strong. You know, Verstappen's looking better these days as well. The Red Bull team in general is looking quicker, although Fernando Alonso has had 5 DNFs in a row, so he's not, you know, really loving life at the moment. But, you know, Ferrari are looking quicker. Ferrari looking quicker. Schumacher's knocked a bit of confidence ever since that DNF in Austria, and McLaren have looked a little bit on the back foot, and it means me and Lando are in lower points positions in these races, which is going to mean the championship fight is so much tighter and more tense because there's no massive swings of points. It's like very small chipping away, and it keeps everything very, very close. So it'll be interesting to see if there's a point, if there's a race later on in the season where one of us wins again or gets a podium whilst the other is lower down the order, because that could be a massive factor in, you know, how this championship ends up. And Lando's AI is massively focused, 86, but not as high as the likes of Carlos Sainz with 91, you know, Leclerc 82, Russell doing really well to say he's only 78 focus, only 78, that's still pretty good. But Mick Schumacher, he enters the Hungaroring after it did some more boosting on the focus in the activity timeline, 92 focus going into Hungary, 96 rated with some boosters to his racecraft and awareness, I think, as well, due to some activity timeline, you know, events. So I'm really hoping, you know, he had a bit of a quiet race at Silverstone. Maybe now with over 90 focus and, you know, those boosted awareness and racecraft stats, he can go back to full form. You know, we did win 5 races in a row until last episode. Leclerc broke that cycle, so let's maybe see if we can try and return to the top step of the podium maybe as a team. It's going to be difficult though, because you saw on the R&D graph, you know, on paper we are on the back foot. McLaren now are ahead of us, Ferrari, Mercedes, but it's going to be dependent on track to track, and I wonder how big that ultimate upgrade is going to be on that final chassis upgrade, because otherwise we've got a maxed out car, we've got nowhere to go, and the other teams around us may be higher, so maybe the FOM car maxes out lower than some of these other teams. And if it does, it's basically, a case of we have to try and take the results when we can, when the track suits the FOM car better. I think Silverstone definitely doesn't suit the FOM car. I think the AI are also a little bit overpowered around Silverstone. So let's see about Hungary. In general, we've actually gone quite well around Hungary, and the strategy can be quite interesting in terms of the 2-stop v the 1. So we're going to have to see how it plays out on Sunday, of course. But we're here on Saturday, first and foremost, for qualifying. We got through into Q2, no issue there in the background whilst I was talking about all of that. And so now we're into that second part of qualifying, trying to get through into the top 10 shootout, going through and trying to hopefully get through on one flying lap to allow us to have 2 fresh set of tyres into the top 10 shootout there. That is very, very fine. We only just about do that and get through to the dismay of Esteban Ocon in P11 there. Schumacher looking a bit better this race weekend in P5, I would say. Sainz, though, and Leclerc showing Ferrari are looking quick once again. Hamilton, he's there, but we know in the race it's going to be a different story. And Russell looking strong. And like I said, McLaren on the back foot a bit, they're a bit slow there. Let's see how they do in Q3. Let's see how we do in Q3 as we take a lot of liberty and curb on the outside. And this first flyer taking a bit too much curb, though, on the left-hand side there. And it's a really scruffy second sector on the first flyer in the shootout. So this may not be the best lap ever. Probably definitely not. I lost at least a couple of tenths there, I would say, going wide on both occasions, either side of the circuit. P6, though, still ahead of Schumacher on our first run, but behind Russell, Leclerc, ahead of Bottas, though. Don't know where Lando Norris is at the moment. Let's find out. He's P2. He's P2. He's on the first row. He's only 4 thousandths behind Ferrari, Sainz, on pole position there. So we're going to have to pull our socks up and try and pull something out of the bag if we want to try and get close to our championship rival on the grid for Sunday. And what can Schumacher do as well? Let's find out. Russell P5 at the moment. Ricciardo's gone P4. We've gone purple first sector, matching our first sector, pretty much green the second. 5 tenths gained across the line, and it is a very, very strong lap. It's not strong enough to beat Schumacher, but it's strong enough to beat Lando Norris. We're actually sharing the grid row, though, the second row of the grid alongside him, but it's Sainz who does maintain pole position. Schumacher, though, P2 alongside him on the front row, will have a great run on the inside into turn 1 at the race start. So Schumacher may have returned to good form, and that focus update and that extra racecraft and awareness boosting from the activity timeline. We've done a decent enough job to beat our main rival in the championship. It's all going to be about though tyre wear and strategy tomorrow. Let's see what the race pace is like. I have a hunch that Ferrari may be strong and Leclerc may be trying to come up the order and get in the middle of us. Let's find out. Let's go to the grid.
Welcome to Budapest once again for another round of the Formula One World Championship. Historically, a good race for first victories with Button, Hill, Alonso and Heikki Kovalainen all reaching the top step of the podium for the first time here. Located 12 miles northeast of the Hungarian capital Budapest, the 14 corners of the Hungaroring are steeped in history and prestige. Overtaking has always been difficult on this technical 2.7-mile circuit, but the last few years in particular have turned up some exceptional races. Let's hope we're in for another one here today. And as always, a man with plenty of racing experience joins me in the commentary box. Today it's Anthony Davidson. Tell me, Ant, you're no stranger to surviving the melee of turn 1. So how do you keep out of trouble when there's so much going on around you?
Well, the throttle goes both ways, Crofty. You've got to have the discipline not to try and win the race on the first lap, so always be prepared to lift early and give those around you more space. Trying to be the last of the late breakers with half a dozen cars around you may pay off from time to time, but it's also a great way to lose your front wing.
Let's run you through the driver grid order for today's exciting race. It's Carlos Sainz in pole position, and Mick Schumacher completes the front row. Looking at the rest of today's grid, we have the owner driver, Leclerc, Daniel Ricciardo and Hamilton, Russell, Verstappen, Bottas and Esteban Ocon, Fernando Alonso, Gasly, Lance Stroll and Norris, Tsunoda, Ireland, and Guan Yu Zhou and Nikita Mazepin, Lundgaard, Matsushita, Giovinazzi and Nicholas Latifi. It's almost time for those 5 red lights to go out. Then let's see who can prevail today.
Well, we've got a massive advantage then, it would seem. Even before the 5 red lights begins, we've got big news. If you saw the grid sequence there, Lando Norris has a grid penalty. I'm assuming for engine component changes, so he's down the order. He still has to start on the soft compounder tyre, so that's gonna hinder him quite a fair bit. It's not like he can jump up the order with the usual, but to be fair, the strategy, there is a one-stop available from soft to hards. We actually did that last season, and it worked out for us quite well, but this season, I think that the 2-stop may be the way to go for us. The tyre wear is looking a bit higher, I would say, some circuits. And the thing is, our own engineers have also selected the 2-stop. So our own computer engineers are recommending we do the 2-stop. Schumacher, I don't know, based off, his past tyre wear, his past races with the tyre wear, I reckon he'll do a 2-stop as well. I don't know about others, but, is it worth taking the risk for the 1-stop with, a puncher maybe at the end, or, being overtaken? I don't know, but our engineers are recommending it to us. I feel good about doing the 2-stop as well, so I think we go for it and we see what we can do. But we've got a big advantage here, and this could be a load of points over Lando Norris in the championship. But first and foremost, we've got an exciting start to this Grand Prix, a long run down to turn 1. Who's going to get there first? 5 red lights are out, and we're underway for the Hungarian Grand Prix. And Schumacher with an electric star, he's up into P1 already, and now we've got Leclerc on the outside, Ricciardo on the left, and we're getting brake check by Sainz. We've been tapped round, we're spun round by Ricciardo, and there's a huge incident behind as there's a pile up at turn 1, and the safety car has been called out. Lando Norris has been caught up in it, and 2 Alpha Tauris with damage, the Aston Martin as well, I think, but Lando has been pushed down the order even further than where he started the race. But we have got damage. I've asked my engineer, I checked the vehicle condition, we've got damage to the front wing, so we have to pit on lap 1. Not ideal. What a bonkers lap 1, and that's flipped this entire race on its head in terms of the championship fight. But Schumacher, brilliant stuff, into first place, leads the race, and then this was very, very fine. And going on board with George Russell behind, just to kind of see the kind of line we took into turn 1. See, you saw there I start to go left, so it is, a lot of, my own doing with that spin. I just didn't see Ricciardo coming, to be honest, so quickly on the left-hand side, and then Russell's very lucky to not have T-boned me and broken his front wing. On board from Ricciardo, let's see what goes for him. So he keeps a straight line. Now, at this moment in time, look at the right-hand side. I'm completely boxed in. I've got nowhere to go on the left, but my car is still veering left because that's the kind of natural way I was going. And also, to be honest, I was almost, crapping my pants trying to slow the car down because I almost just smashed into the back end of Carlos Sainz because he started braking a lot earlier than I thought he would. I think he was being a bit cautious behind Schumacher a little bit, and it caught me out, and we had to do a massive job on the brakes to slow it down. And here's the testament to that on the front wing cam. I mean, at no point do I actually make contact with Sainz. That is so close. We did so well to stop ourselves smashing into the back of Sainz, but then the natural momentum I had going left just carried me into that path where now you can see the tyre on tyre contact is the thing that spins me out. So it's a racing incident. It is kind of more so my fault, if anyone's fault really, because I was the one avoiding a crash with Sainz, and whilst avoiding that crash with Sainz, I veered to the left a little bit and allowed myself to get spun round by Ricciardo on the left hand side. But as I said at the time, the speed at which I had to think there into turn 1, you're just not going to have the reaction time to dodge the tyre of Ricciardo coming out of nowhere. It took me by surprise. Like 1 minute I was braking for Sainz, and the next minute I was sideways. So all in a blur, in a flash. And it means now, with the front wing damage we incurred, we have to now, well, we're towards the back of the grid now, and now somehow Lando is ahead of us in this race. We've put onto a set of yellow wall medium tyres because the hards won't take us all the way to the end, so there's no point even trying that. So we are doing a 2-stop now. We have to do a 2-stop, but our 2-stop has now become harder because I'm on the mediums on lap 3, which is really like lap 1 because the race is restarting now under the safety car. So this is going to be a mega job as now but Carlos Sainz on the restart as Schumacher goes round the bend. The Ferrari's out. The man on pole position is out this Grand Prix. Heartache for Ferrari, but probably less so that they weren't in first place, because that would have been such heartache if they lost first place from an engine failure. But now we go on the restart, looking to overtake the Haas. But look at Callum Ilott coming through. The Aston Martin so quick, and he dive bombs me. I'm going to take avoiding action there because the Aston was almost veering into me at turn 1's apex. So taking this very cautiously, making sure it's basically like a survival mode instinct for me, trying to avoid these slower cars, because we are going to try and re-overtake Callum Ilott. We should do. We are the quicker car, but the Aston Martin seems to be very good now these days in a straight line once again, with those upgrades obviously bringing them back into the fold, into the play a little bit of the midfield fight. But P8 team have got a long road ahead of us. We're on the 2-stop, but we have to try and essentially try and overtake cars ahead of us that are slower than us, all the way up to Lando Norris, I'd say. But at the same time, try and save the tyre wear, because we have to go quite long into this race on this first set, and then go quite long on the second set. So we need to be very careful about that, while still making overtakes, which is very difficult to do if you didn't know. So, you know, we're going to try our best, but let's see how it goes. But already got the Williams car then up into P17, Latifi up next. But Lando Norris, P14, he's not too far ahead of us, but the difference is he's not made a pit stop yet, and he may be going to 1-stop as we get very, very close to Latifi's rear end. But yeah, the McLaren, you know, the 1-stop is available from soft to medium, and it's lap 5 right now, and this is kind of the second proper fast lap we've had in this race. So I think all the soft tyre runners could stretch the stint a lot longer into the Grand Prix, if you know what I mean, and they could, you know, easily do 1-stop maybe. Whether they still do that, I'm not too sure. Let's find out. But up the road, we're seeing the two Alpha Tauris kind of hunting down the other Alfa Romeo of Giovinazzi there. Sonoda down the inside, and it's going to be, oh, a lovely finished off move there for the Japanese driver around the outside. Gasly is going for a move, a very ballsy move round the outside of the top of the hill. Can we try and get one of these guys? They're both like a mobile duo of chicanes here on the circuit. It's already a difficult circuit to pass. Monaco out the barriers, let alone when you've got slower cars fighting each other. As Giovinazzi, wow, gives us a massive squeeze, almost pushes us off circuit at the chicane here. So these midfield cars are giving us a real hard fight, and we're having to be very cautious. And meanwhile, look at the top left, Schumacher, he's in and he's pit onto a set of medium tyres. So Schumacher is also doing a 2-stop, but he's doing a more conventional 2-stop as Gasly makes contact with Mazepin, and we try and avoid him on the outside. We're going to let off throttle, let him back through, because we did overtake him off circuit and then overtake him down the inside. So the FI can't say anything about us legally overtaking the Russian, but Gasly was very aggressive with the Williams man, and we're trying our best to catch him up and overtake him. And then Sonoda, the Alpha Tauri, is actually looking quite handy at the moment as they're kind of cutting through the midfield, or the slower cars, I guess you could say, just like we want to, but we now need to overtake them because they themselves are slow cars compared to the speed we should have right now. And we need to get a move on, because Schumacher is altered behind us. We've got some slipstream DRS open, and it's a very close move on Pierre Gasly. We were inches away from the wall, and more importantly, Daniel Ricciardo coming out the pit lane. My word, Gasly giving us the Michael Schumacher squeeze as Mick Schumacher overtakes us, because we let him through on purpose, because I know Mick is not in my race today. He's much quicker than I am in this race. He's on a different 2-stop than I am. I need to save my tyres, whereas he could probably try and push a bit harder, and so I'm doing what they do in real life. I'm going to let him through. If he can overtake Sonoda, he can overtake Sonoda. If he can't, then I'm going to try and re-overtake him. But let's look at a replay. Look how close we are to the wall, and then more importantly, Ricciardo. That honestly could have been disaster. That could have been a massive crash and a big DNF for this championship and for this race, because look at this, Ricciardo on board, we fly, oh my, that is too close for comfort. That's all from Gasly's squeeze, so myself and Gasly, no love lost in terms of our rivalry on the F1 game. Schumacher, though, let's see what he can do. Can he overtake Tsunoda? I let him through on purpose to see if he can do it, just like they do in real life. Teammate tactics here, and just some good democracy, basically, in terms of the overtaking show here. Schumacher on the left-hand side trying to finish off the move, and he's going to do it on Tsunoda, kind of push him out wide, hopefully, and going to invite us in to also make an overtake on the Japanese driver. Here we go. ERS usage as we go subtly up the hill on the blind left-hander. Easy does it around the outside. And we're up into P5, Schumacher ahead of us, and he's going to start pulling away because he is actually genuinely really quick. And here we are, lap 17 now, a couple laps later, and Schumacher is very much far and away from us. 4.2 the gap as we make a dive bomb on Lance Stroll to try and get in some clean air and make it a 1-2 for aarava Racing. Round the outside we go, Lance Stroll going long on the mediums. He's yet to pit in this Grand Prix, surprisingly enough, but it's now a 1-2 for us, but Schumacher 5 seconds ahead of us, so you can see the pace difference is quite large. To be fair, I am trying to save my tyres more so than Schumacher probably is, but here we are then, lap 19. This is why I need to save tyres. We've gone 18 laps on these medium, and now we're going to have to go 16 laps then to the end of the Grand Prix. We've done some good work to allow us to maybe lean on the medium tyre a little bit more on this last stint to try and catch up people, but where are we going to filter out? That's the question. Lando, by the way, is on a one-stop. He's on the hard tyres. A lot of people are on the hard tyres. The only people in the kind of quote-unquote top teams doing a two-stop are myself and Schumacher. There goes Verstappen, there goes Norris, and so we're only one position behind Lando, but we've got some time to find to close up to him. Schumacher now is in for his second pit stop, and he's going to come out in P8. So the leader is now Ricciardo. Schumacher's P8. He's going to catch up to all these guys. I believe Hamilton has to pit still in this race, so Schumacher will be up to P7, but he has to try and overtake Ocon. Russell, the two Alpines, looking very high and mighty in P5 and 6 right now for Alpine. Bottas P4. Fernando Alonso, let's not jinx it, but 5 DNFs in a row. He's in a podium position right now. I don't know how he's done it. I think he must have done some overtaking in the kind of tyre window. In the pit stop window. Leclerc P2, keeping the pressure on Ricciardo by half a second, but Ricciardo right now is the one that is genuinely leading the race on hard tyres, so doing a fabulous job, and very much maybe needed for him, because he's really not he's been piss poor this season compared to that man up the road on us, Lando Norris. We now set a personal best lap time. We are closing up to our fellow Brit, our championship rival, and he's being held up a little bit by Verstappen, but the thing is, like Monaco, like other circuits, it's very difficult to overtake, It's one thing to close up to a car in Formula 1, it's another thing to chase after people. I think Murray Walker once said that before, but that's going to be the case for us. Can we actually overtake Lando Norris? It's proving really difficult at the moment. We're well within 1 second now. We've got DRS for, I think, the first or second time now in this race on him. But, he's got DRS off the Red Bull car, and Verstappen's doing enough just to be quick enough to pull them along, and I'm trying to get close. You can see we are getting very, very close, but the dirty air is also kicking in, and I'm not getting the exact run we need. I feel like this is the place we need to overtake, just up the hill on this left-hander, because turn 1 is proving very difficult. The McLaren is actually really good in a straight line, and I'm actually quite poor off the last corner compared to the AI. DRS open again. ERS usage across the line. You can see, look at those 2 red sectors in sectors 2 and 3. So we're losing time now. Hamilton, who is pit, he's overtaken Gasly, and I think is set to overtake Lance Stroll. He set the fast lap of the Grand Prix, and if we're not careful, we don't overtake Lando quickly, Hamilton could close up to us. Lando, though, looking a bit weak here, I must say, and we've got a really good shimmy and shake run left to right. ERS usage round the outside. Oh no, we got on the curb. Oh, the curb caught us, and we've just about held the car and kept it at the barrier. That is a miracle in itself. 2 times now we've been saved by some sort of miracle of a crash. First it was that Gasly Ricciardo incident, and then there I was launched so quickly on the curb I nearly put it into the wall, but we got damage.
I think the underbody's incurred some slight damage, but nothing too serious. Okay, gap ahead is 2.2 seconds.
So we may have kept it out of the wall and kept ourselves in the Grand Prix, but we've got floor damage now, and I think a bit of bargeable damage as well off that curb. That curb is deadly. It just caught me off guard. We were going for the move on the outside. There was nowhere else to go on Lando. That was the only place to make the move there at that part of the circuit, and we just got caught out.
Don't panic just yet, but we've seen a problem at our end. We're looking into
Oh,
it.
you're kidding me. What?
We can confirm that it's an issue with our engine. Good news, it looks like the
Okay.
fault has been fixed.
Whew, okay, thank Lord. Okay, within the span of one lap, I went from looking at my damage at the underfloor to also seeing now we've got a very worn engine part. This Mercedes power unit is not that reliable as there's a lot of traffic here. Oh my God, this is going to be chaos. Latifi, Matsushita trying to get out of the way. It is like, yeah, there's so many mobile chicanes here today at Hungary. But my engineer saying there was an engine issue, but they fixed it immediately, it would seem, like on the same lap there. So that's a sigh of relief. But my engine component, I think the MGK, the main deployment for the braking harvesting is very worn out. So we're going to have to look into that. Just like Lando taking an engine penalty today, we may have to take one soon enough because the Mercedes power units very much are a lot more unreliable than the other competitors. Right now, though, lap 29, Ricciardo going steady, still in P1. Leclerc 3/10 off him now. So that's even closer than before, but still the Aussie man holds on and holds off the pressure. Alonso still P3 ahead of Bottas, Russell, Ocon, Schumacher P7. He's still there. He's still there in P7. He's not made any progress. It is very difficult. We're finding out it is very difficult to overtake around here when the cars are this close. I mean, maybe we should have seen it coming a little bit, but I genuinely thought the tyre wear was going to be high enough on the hard tyres and it was going to be a horrendous race tyre that we could make some ground, but both myself and Mick are getting trapped behind cars. Now, lap 29, I've actually closed back up to Norris. We've set a purple first sector with DRS, green second sector. Hamilton is pushing me around this circuit to go quicker, but we're actually still quite quick, even despite the floor damage, because my tyres are that much quicker. My mediums are outdoing the damage I've got on the underfloor, and both Lando and Max are that slow on the hard tyres that I'm keeping up with them, but it's not enough. I'm just that slither enough, not quick enough to actually get the move done and get it in a straight line somewhere, either up the hill here or into turn one. Last sector is impossible. Second sector, same thing basically. It's just basically like Monaco, so it's very frustrating right now. And lap after lap, we're getting close, but it's just no cigar. Close but no cigar. DRS open, ERS deploying, getting right up his gearbox into turn one, literally pushing him through turn one at times. But then he gets the overspeed with the acceleration he's got on that McLaren. We can't quite find the space up the hill, because down the hill we're trying to push hard. We're getting that flow, that little slingshot ERS usage, but it's looking like it's going to be no use, and it's the same thing up the road. So actually this has been kind of a bit of a mellow last part of the Grand Prix, because the order hasn't really changed at all. Ricciardo is still leading the way then as we go on to the last lap of the Grand Prix, and looking good to maybe win the Hungarian Grand Prix from Leclerc. Alonso still in the podium, so after 5 DNFs, Alonso is going to finally get some points in this championship after a long while. And Red Bull are going to be thanking their lucky stars that finally Alonso is performing for them a little bit. We've got Bottas, then Russell, Ocon, really good. Ocon a lot slower than Russell, but Ocon's still quick enough to hold up Schumacher in P7. Sad times. And then, yeah, here goes Verstappen, Norris, and myself and Hamilton. Basically a four-man train. Again, I'm nose to tail with Lando. Hamilton's there pushing me as well, but there's just no change in the status quo. We're getting close here. I'm having an even closer look here. Good run, a bit of ERS usage, but look at that acceleration of the McLaren with the tyre wear is kicked in now for us on the mediums, and that floor damage may be getting a little bit worse because the barge board area I think was not lime green like that earlier. So Daniel Ricciardo, after a long while, he's had a very poor season, but he's back on the top step of the podium. McLaren will be happy for him. Lando will be happy, though, to be fair to him as well, because he's beaten me and got some more points over me, or one single point over me. But what a weird race at Hungary. What a weird one. Lap 1, chaos. It happens, though. Lap 1, anything can happen. We had to make the most of it, but then a few mistakes here and there. Some close calls with Gasly, Ricciardo, and Lando. Very weird one.
Another race and another win for McLaren. Anthony Davidson, how do you think they were able to set themselves apart today?
Without a doubt, the safety car changed everything today. The key to their success was keeping calm and reacting to the situation quickly. We've seen teams in the past throw away wins because they were too hesitant, but here they were decisive, and that's allowed them to take the advantage.
Our drivers are making their way out for the podium celebrations, and it's going to be McLaren picking up the winner's trophy. Congratulations to the entire team for that fantastic performance.
But to say I was actually saying McLaren might be on the back foot, they've done very well with Ricciardo. I mean, Lando was on the back foot, but had he not had the penalty, he could have easily been right there with Ricciardo as well. Of course, unfortunate with Schumacher, did so well to get on the front row, led the race, but the two-stop just was not the one. But the good news is, he's got his confidence back, so let's hope he can be right there again for the rest of the season now and be a really good teammate and good partnership. We're going to need it because Ferrari, with Leclerc's podium here, 2 back-to-back podiums, he's closing up to us a little bit in the championship. The drivers are still some far way off, you know, the battle's still very much me v Lando, 2 points of difference, 35 then to Leclerc. But in the constructors, Ferrari now are looking really, really good. They bring the gap down even further again. Alpine close up to Mercedes with that really strong performance. So the game is on for Alpine v Mercedes for P4, and it's very much game on in terms of McLaren, Ferrari chasing after us with, you know, both their, two respective drivers from their teams being 1 and 2. Both championships are very much still up for grabs, but it's just so tight and close to myself and Lando. We just keep on meeting each other on circuit, and despite the craziness of the season and highs and lows of wins and etc., we're still so close. I'm loving it. But this was a very odd race, one to kind of forget in a way, and hopefully we can reset nicely into the Belgium Grand Prix. But guys, if you did enjoy this episode, hit the like button, let me know what you thought in the comments below. If you're around here, then do get subscribed for weekly Formula 1 content. I'll see you guys next time. Goodbye.